there. Welcome back to the Awakened Mind podcast. I'm so excited to invite this special guest, Jacquelyn, or Jackie, I call you Jackie, onto the podcast today. And this is a really powerful topic that I know that many of us have struggled with, if not in the past, are still struggling with right now. So I'm really excited for you guys to join us. And Jackie, thank you so much for joining today. I'm so happy to have you on the show.
What an honor and a pleasure as always, Shannon. And yes, you can call me J-Dog. You can call me whatever today because
J-Dog.
it's all about imposter syndrome, is such a big, hard word, heavy word, I guess, is what a lot of people put on it. And when we can add more fun and play, that's why I said J-Dog, is because it's just funny and playful. We can start to break it up. We can start to break up this pattern. So we're going to get into that today, which I'm excited about. But yeah, such an honor and a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you. And I mean, I know that you and I specifically have talked about imposter syndrome quite a bit in the past. And I'd love to just hear your story a little bit more, even what got you into the career you're in now and coaching others and helping others get over these hurdles and these roadblocks.
Well, it all started when I was 2 years old. No, I'm just kidding.
It all started in the womb.
In the womb. It all started my grandmother's generation. No, I'm just kidding. That's for another episode. That's another episode. But
episode in itself.
For real, it really hit me probably in a couple pivotal points. But the one I want to share today was right in my career in my corporate space where I thought I had landed the position of a lifetime right out of college. And then I got asked to go join another company within 2 years of that. And I thought, well, that's the one. And it's like, isn't it like funny how we think this is the end all be all experience, whether it's a relationship or a professional thing or just something that we've been targeting or looking forward to or setting this goal for. And then we get there and it's like, oh, can there be more? Right. And one thing that my imposter syndrome showed up very loudly was when I did pageants back in the day. And Shannon, I don't even think you know this about me.
You did pageants?
Yes.
Oh,
pageants. Wow. It wasn't something I was proud of for a while. And then there was some work around that. Why? Because of the stigma of pageants and pageantry. And I was like this rule breaker in the pageant world. It's like, no, you don't have to have the perfect smile and the perfect hair and the perfect dress, right?
Why am I not surprised?
Because I'm a recovering perfectionist too, right? And a recovering people pleaser, which when you look at pageants, that's what it's all about. Yes. At least that's what we're taught. But I was coming in to rock the world and I won first runner-up more times than I can count on two hands.
Wow. So, and even having that mentality of, I don't have to have the perfect smile. I don't have to. So you started to sort of adopt this a little bit earlier.
Very early. And yes, I did pageants when I was little, like 5 or 6, little Miss Ohio Dixie Darling. And I won. I had trophies that were bigger than me. And that was only like 2 or 3 times that my mom did that. My mom was a professional hairdresser, owned her own little studio in our little town of One Stoplight. And I think that's why I did pageants, right? My mom was like, look what I did. I just made her this little doll up, right? Yeah. And then I tried again later in life just because I was like, okay, I'm making decent money in what I was doing, working for a hospital right out of college, but I wanted to get my master's degree because I thought, imposter syndrome, I needed another certification. I needed another degree to make more money, to have more time freedom, to do travel, because I was addicted to travel after semester at sea, which was my last semester in college, where I literally went around the world on a boat, started in the Bahamas and ended up in Seattle. That's another podcast episode we could talk about. So at that point, when I was doing these pageants and I was getting first runner-up over and over and over again, which in my mind, I was like, that's his first a loser. Like, no, first runner-up is like, you almost won, right? Yes. And it could have been by a half a point. And then it's all based on people's opinions. And I'm like,
right. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So this is when I, thank goodness, read the book, The 4 Agreements, where we talk about take nothing personally. And I'm like, these fools didn't know what they were looking at or understanding. And, maybe I didn't raise this much money as a sponsorship, but I was 1,000 off. And that's why that person went. So there's so many different weird, quirky dynamics. And I'm not poo-pooing pageants, by the way. So if anybody out there is listening to this, it was a cool growth curve in my life.
For sure.
But I didn't have to do that so many times. And I didn't have to make it mean anything than what it was, right? We can make things mean something really great or something really bad. It can be the same experience over and over again, right? We're meaning making machines. So this all relates to my coaching business because I was in corporate health and wellness, doing really well, helping people become better high performers. And I'm so good at helping people become better high performers that I burned out. That makes sense, right? Perform too much.
In that.
You burn out. And I was like, oh, so there has to be something more. There has to be something more. So then I dug really deep into the Tony Robbins stuff. And then I dug really deep into Joe Dispenza. And then I dug really deep into these like Gabby Bernstein and these amazing people who were leading in a different way, right? They were choosing to say, hey, you can do it this way or you can do it your way, right? But even them as those leaders of that time and still are amazing experts right now in this space, I was still feeling like there was something missing, right? And it was because the old paradigms, the old culture, the old society standards of success, make a lot of money, retire, and live a good life. And I'm always thinking this yes and by design. I'm like, can I still make some money and still have a good life now? Like never saw the point of like working really hard, even though that's what I was taught, to then enjoy life 60 years later.
Yeah, you reap the rewards not while you're doing it, but only when you're done. You only get the cookie when you're done.
Yes. And then when that cookie's gone, you want another cookie.
Right.
So then what, right? Which goes back to the credential thing. So the credentials, the certifications. And I realized, okay, no, I'm very passionate about NLP. So I got a certification in NLP. And then I got a coaching certification from one of Tony Robbins. And then I was like, I want another certification, but do I want it? Do I need it? Like, where is this coming from? I didn't. But I was young. I was in my mid to late 20s at the time. And I'm like, oh, so no one's going to take me serious, even though I know this stuff. I've mastered it. I've embodied it. I've used it on myself. I've used it on my clients. And this was before internet the way that it is today. Like this was way back 2007, 2008. I'm dating myself, I know, but technology was a lot harder to put yourself out there. Yes. I had to go to networking events basically to acquire clients and help people break through and start living this yes and life by design and really maximizing fulfillment over success at the time. That's what I called it. I was like, let's create fulfillment instead of success. And again, Tony Robbins quote.
That. Yep.
Well, you love it, but wait for it. Tony Robbins quote, right? Success without fulfillment is failure. And I would preach that to the mountaintops until, I don't know if it's 4 or 5 years ago now. I was like, well, I've failed so much in my life and I was fulfilled while failing. Now, there were times I failed in life and I wasn't fulfilled, right? But like, is it really failure or is it just not success? So to me, success without fulfillment simply isn't success, right?
I love that. Yeah, that's so powerful because I mean, even you sharing your story, I heard a lot of myself, and I'm sure all of our listeners are hearing, not all, but maybe some of them are hearing some of this as well, is that you have to keep getting the certification or keep getting the training. I'll be good enough when, I'll be good enough when I get this. I'll be good enough when this happens or I have this training or someone tells me I'm doing a great job. And so when you've noticed this happening throughout your life, what helped you push through? What was that aha moment like, wow, I really need to break through this?
Yes. Well, it continued to show up. You and I both know imposter syndrome is not a one and done, check the box. It's not like we can go into hypnosis and we can release it and honor it and thank it. And then it's just gone forever. It's kind of like fear. Fear is always going to be there. How do we embrace it? How do we friend it? How do we let it be our teacher? How do we allow it to be the spotlight on where we can just go in and do a little bit more of that inner work? Right. And so one of the statements I used immediately was, who am I to do this and be successful? Because I was like really putting myself down when I said that. Who am I to do something like this, right? And then it's, who am I not to? Who am I not to?
Great reframe. Who am I not to?
Yes, as a professional, as a mom, as a volunteer, as a friend, as whatever I desired and I knew in my heart. Right? That was true. And this still shows up. Like even when I was launching my coaching business on and off for a decade, a decade, which was embarrassing. You never would admit that for the longest time.
I never would have thought that.
Oh,
Isn't
yeah.
that funny with imposter syndrome is we feel all these things internally and someone can look on the outside and say, "Wow, they really have everything together."
Yeah.
Like they've got it figured out.
Oh, it did. It looked great on the outside. On the inside, I was just like eating myself alive so much that I was like, okay, I thought I was being smart, which I kind of was. I started working for other online service providers since my whole background has been in high ticket sales and the corporate health and wellness, and into obviously I got to sell my coaching services. So I've always been really good at seeking to understand people and helping them find a solution and say yes and not regret it, and say no and not regret it, and just like be good at decision mastery. Like honor yourself enough to just decide already, right? And so that's been a skill set of mine for over 21 years. And I was like, wow, I can get paid somewhere else to do that for somebody else, selling millions, literally over 21 million personally in the online space, not in my own business, obviously.
Nice.
Yes,
Yes.
let me say yes. But when I was doing this, imposter syndrome was screaming at me. I was like, I'll go work for this company. I'll learn how they're doing the marketing, how they're running their business while selling, making some income, and still coaching some clients on the side. And it really did feel good. If I had a lot of fulfillment, but I also burned out. So I burned out a second time, as if once wasn't good enough, because I loved helping people. And I'm a yes person. I'm a recovering people pleaser. So when someone would say, hey, can you take on this and this and this? Sure, because I could. And I did. And then 1 month turned into two into three, and then 6 months. And I never really had the hard boundary lines, even though I was really good at helping other people create boundaries. And I have testimonials out the wazoo on that. And I'm like, maybe I should go read my own, thoughts and wisdom right there. So again, by me saying, okay, what I saw going on behind the scenes at these companies was like, that's not in alignment to how I want to run my business. Not to say that it wasn't ethical at all. I did work for, and I could tell you every single company had very good values, but it wasn't how I wanted to run my business. And I'm like, okay, well then how can I do this? And I would go back to, who am I to do this? This person does over 100 million, which seemed like overnight. And I felt like way far behind. Imposter syndrome. I'm not there yet. So who am I to do that or say that or even take that next step? That's just limiting beliefs and lies from our old programming, right? So I'd flip that script, reframe. Who am I not to? Who am I not to? Journal really hard around that. And even still when it pops up, I just kind of remind myself and smile, like, who am I not to do this thing?
Yeah. We take ourselves too seriously.
Yes.
And it's really interesting when you talk about high achievers, because I've noticed this a lot too, is the high achievers are the ones that I see that have almost as if a debilitating paralysis, imposter syndrome. They go through and they do it anyways. Why do you think that people who are successful feel like they're not enough? These high achievers where you wouldn't even, from the outside, they just look like they have it together.
Well, this is my favorite topic because these are my favorite people to work with, right?
Okay.
Because they're usually, like myself, a silent sufferer, right?
Yes.
They really don't want to reach out because then they're like either embarrassed or ashamed, which is another sign of imposter syndrome, right? About it, when in reality, we all are feeling these things at some point, or we're lying to ourselves. We really are. Or we're just not wanting to go look at it. It's like going by a car accident. You either want to look at it or you don't, right? And most people just don't want to look at it. And this is what I notice with my clients who are high achievers, high performers. And it's directly tied to imposter syndrome, believe it or not. So I feel like the higher up you go with your success, especially in the public eye, they feel these things. And I always like to relate this back to, like, look at Robin Williams, right? And it's like, what if he would have just had the support? And what if he did have signs and nobody was aware because they're like, oh, he's so happy and he's successful.
He's
and it's
funny and
he's amazing. Like my heart, like I get still chills thinking about like, why did that have to happen? And part of me is like, I wish I could have just been in his back pocket to be that little whisper. Be like, who are you not to do this? Who are you not to like share more? Who are you not to like step into what was, there was something missing in his world of fulfillment, or he wouldn't have done what he did.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's really that
Yeah.
simple, but look, like that's a tragedy now. It's a tragedy.
Yes.
Yes, he'll still leave a legacy. Yes, he's still an
Mm-hmm.
amazing human. Yes, a little piece of him lives in all of us if we love him, right? That's the beautiful
Yeah.
part about death. Unfortunately, but fortunately, I've experienced a lot of that throughout my life. And every time I'd mourn, I'm like, oh, they're gone. As a human, I selfishly miss them.
Yes.
Yes, a part of them dies, but yes, a part of them lives on because of us having that connection and
Absolutely.
that relationship. So with high performers, it doesn't discriminate. At the end of the day, I really believe that when someone is living from their vision and they don't get off track and they're super clear on what that was, it won't stop them anymore. It's not to say it won't whisper or shout at them, but it won't stop them longer than a couple minutes or a couple hours, which I know seems like a lot, but this is where, panic attacks and anxiety can be the extreme of a
Yes.
byproduct of imposter syndrome, right? And so I feel like even if you're like, well, I'm not a high performer, or I'm not a high achiever, then is this applicable to me? Yeah, it is applicable to you, because no matter what level of success you acquire or experience or attain or create in life, it's going to happen. And you'll either, again, turn a blind eye, or you'll shine the spotlight on it and say, wow, thank goodness for Shannon, or thank goodness for Jackie. They gave me some tools. Like, I don't have to
Yes.
suffer. I can really step into this radical, intentional self-expansion and really step into my possibility, potentiality, and release the pressure of whatever's being put on you, or you're self-inducing, like that pressure, right? It's either one or
Yeah.
the other. We're either giving our power away and someone's putting pressure on us, and no one can do that without your permission. If you're like, but I didn't give them permission. You did. Your subconscious mind either gave them permission, or your conscious mind, or you had an unspoken expectation. And it's our job to choose again and clean that up.
Yeah. J-Dog, I'm just going to put you in my back pocket every
Please do.
time I
I'd
need
love to
to.
be in your back pocket.
No, but there's something really interesting that you said about really being in the spotlight more, and that could be a reason why high achievers are experiencing this imposter syndrome. But another thing just came to mind, which I think could be something that I've experienced in the past too, is that almost like confusion
Mm-hmm.
on that goal or the thing, or why am I even doing this? And it felt like almost an out of alignment thing. Do you think that being out of alignment contributes to imposter syndrome, or would you say that those are two separate things?
I don't think there's a chicken or the egg situation.
Mm-hmm.
I really believe that you can be out of alignment, feel indefinitely you're going to activate imposter syndrome more frequently versus in alignment, but you can feel
Okay.
it in alignment for sure. I know, because I've done
Because
it
you've been in a
myself.
lot. Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I'm just
Yeah.
out of alignment. And I'm like, am I
Right.
really? Or what is it, right? And again,
Mm.
there's a grace and space to all of this, and where we don't want to make things mean right or wrong or good or bad. And this is what happens with high performers and overachievers, right? They still carry those old beliefs. They still have these feelings of like, am I really worthy of this? Especially if someone makes success really fast. And it could literally feel like overnight, or it could take 3 to 5 years, which is still really fast. Like you said, oh, I didn't know you struggled for 10 years with that. I'm like, yeah, I know. It's still a struggle bus, so much that even this past year, I swiped everything clean and re-recorded a bunch of stuff and took a whole nother angle, which I was
Yeah.
like, wow, that, like, where did all that other stuff go? It's still there. It's coded within what I'm already doing now, right? Which is so cool. But it's the same irony that when someone is talented, when someone is committed, when someone is relentless, like I am,
Yeah.
right? Or determined, they set these high standards. And then what happens is, as you're creating and stepping in possibility and potentiality in this higher version of yourself, you're honoring and releasing the old, which is still whispering these old patterns and beliefs that truly can, again, snap you back, or just show you like, I thought I worked through all of that. What can I do right now? And this is, again, when working with Shannon, like, she can give you these tools. You don't have to be dependent on another coach or a resource when you have these tools to apply, with hypnotherapy, with breathing, with tapping, with all the amazing things,
Yes.
which you're sharing in your podcast so generously. And that's the part I love about this, because without that space and grace of awareness, the shift work can feel like resistance and stuckiness and heavy.
It does.
And it doesn't
It
have to feel that
can.
way. Yeah.
Well, and it's like the The Big Leap, Gay Hendricks.
I love
Have
that
you?
book. Yeah, I
It's
just
such a
listened
good.
to it again. Yep, upper
Yes.
limits, upper limits.
Yeah, and you're so right about, it's almost like you have this tag, like tags on you of you're this, or you're, who are you to be
Mhm.
doing this. And then you get on that next level of whatever it is in life. Maybe it's being a new mom, and I'm not a good mom. I'm an I shouldn't be doing this. I don't know what I'm doing. How do you change a diaper? That's how I certainly would be. But it's even that level of, then you get comfortable and used to the thing, and then a new challenge or a new tag pops on, but it's those old beliefs that still pop in, that sense of who should I be doing, or who am I to be doing this. And so
Mhm.
you're right, being able to have those skills and tools every time that you up level, or every time you get to that point. But
Absolutely.
yes, for all listeners, if you haven't listened to The Big Leap, it's a really great book too, which
It's amazing.
touches more into this.
Yes, absolutely. And that's not just for high achievers, high performers. I
Mm-hmm.
really believe anybody who just wants to create that fulfillment, because no matter what level is success or fulfillment for you, because it's a very personal definition, and yet we allow society and culture to define what success is, right? And
Yes.
I'm on a mission to help people break through those paradigms. And like I said, I'm a rule breaker, because it's not true for you if it's not in alignment for you, right? Your truth is divine, and it's in you, and it's for you. And God, universe, source, I call him Gus, doesn't make mistakes, right?
I love
So,
that.
yeah, I think another cool example of that would be like the temperature on a thermostat, right? When you set it to the upper limit, if I only want it to be 75 degrees in my house, then when it hits 75, it's going to bump it, turn it on, and make it come back down, right? Where
Yes.
if we aren't aware of how the thermostat works, and that we can go and turn it up and actually step into the next level, then we could be like bumping against a wall we don't see. It's like noticing what you're noticing. And what I tell people all the time, which is why I always lean on my experts and my business besties and my coaches and my healers, because there's things I know really well. Like I know I'm a really good decision mastery coach. I know I'm a really good
Mm-hmm.
sales coach. I know that I can share the codes that are within the wisdom of the strategies that maybe even seem slimy in sales, but there's codes in there, which is why they worked before, even though they're not in alignment with society this day and age for real solution-based selling. I also know that I know those things, right? And I'm
Yes.
decent at being a mom, right? And then there's things I don't know. I don't know how to fly a plane. And I'm okay with that. So the things I don't know, but I'm aware of, okay, cool. I'm either okay or I'm going to learn it, right? And then
Yeah.
there's this area of I don't know what I don't know. And this is
Mm.
where hypnosis can help tap into that, right?
Yes.
This is where
Yeah.
practicing listening to your intuition can tap into that. And these are some, again, powerful tools that you don't need things to do it.
You
Right?
don't need the other certification to make you
Yes.
feel better. Do you notice that this happens in or is more prevalent in certain communities and industries than others?
Like I said before, I really think it hits harder with those who are seeking to emphasize, like me. I'm a recovering people pleaser. I wanted
Yeah.
to do everything right, high achievement, getting reward for that, and rapid growth. So if you're in an industry or a profession, where there's a lot of pressure for achievement, growth, and your high visibility, I believe that there's a little bit more. But honestly, you can't compare that to somebody who's not, because now we're looking at apples and bananas, right?
Yeah. And the
So
comparing again.
yeah,
Yes.
comparing, which is an imposter syndrome thing.
Yep.
So, I mean, you can find talks on all about that. It's only in this area, or it's only over here in this and high stakes. But anywhere where people are pushing boundaries, anywhere where someone's like a trailblazer or doing innovation, which is what I love to do as well, is like take all the things and let's create something new that unlocks that next possibility and potential and play. And anybody who could be under like any intense scrutiny, like because it's a new idea, because it's like, well, who are you to say that? That goes against what Tony Robbins said, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, and then
no.
there's more the internet in itself.
Mm-hmm.
If you release something, let's just say running an ad, I can
Oh,
tell you imposter syndrome for me pops up anytime I ever think of doing ads. Not Google ads, but like a Facebook ad. Can you imagine a video? See the dialogue. I love it. All my clients are probably like, "Oh my gosh, we have to do hypnosis on Shannon."
Shannon needs to do her own hypnosis session after
My
this.
own hypnosis, right?
It's true. Well, because you feel like you have to prove to the viewers, the people that are sliding through the social lands, right? And that's the point. It's like, no, we don't need to prove anymore. We don't need to justify or explain. Permission to stop justifying and proving and explaining, and enough is enough. And this whole pressure of, again, being your best, doing your best, which is also in the book, The Four Agreements. So I'm going to just debunk a couple myths here that have been written in stone for a while. When you look at the Four Agreements, honor your word, make no assumptions, take nothing personally. And I like to think it, and I don't even know if it's in that order, but the last one is do your best. And I was like, best, that's what I've been trained. Like, I love it. I hear it, I get a dopamine hit. But then it's like so much pressure to be my best on this episode today, on whatever else I'm speaking on what I'm writing next, on my course, on my coaching calls, being a mom.
Like, what does that even mean? You know, like,
what does be your best mean? It means shooting for the stars, and we've never been there before. So what does it look like? What does it feel like? But instead, what if we just said, I'm going to be a little better today? Just a little better. Just a little better this next hour. Just a little better later today. I'm just going to be a little more present with my children, a little more chill in how I respond, a little more out of my head and sitting in my heart space, and a hell of a lot more pleasure, possibility, potential, and fun over that pressure.
Well, that's powerful in itself, because we know, I mean, I know you and I know, and many of us know, that the more fun we have, the better life is. And isn't that the whole reason of living, is to enjoy and give and have all these elevated emotions and have those human experiences that help us grow in wisdom and learn. But it's such a great reframe of how can I be just a little better, because we haven't even defined what best in. Then you fall into the comparison category again, you know, going back to the videos. And for me, 4 years and wanting to do a podcast, which is literally just like a passion project. Let's have fun, whatever, who cares if we mess up? And it still was this desire to try to be perfect. And when I don't even know what that means, there's no definition for that. And when you're thinking about like reframing their thinking and success, do you tend to notice that individuals with imposter syndrome have a hard time receiving awards or accepting compliments, or how do you navigate that when you see this with your clients?
This is an interesting question, because with my clients, because I work with high performers and I work with people who they're kind of like honey badgers. They don't care. Right? And I'm like, okay, it's cool. That's and I hilarious. Like that diversity, right?
Yeah, that's great.
What I can say, though, that's a trend. And what I try to do, because again, we can be talking apples, bananas, or zucchinis right now.
Yeah.
But if imposter syndrome is creeping up and we're really looking at something that we can do to reframe, and it's with someone, let's say, that's like, it's coming up constantly, it's almost like chronically debilitating, and they're literally having a breakdown, right? Or they're like, I just don't like how this is going, and maybe I should just, you know, burn down the business or sell it and just be done. Maybe I wasn't cut out for this. And it's like, well, let's be curious here, right? And you love this word. I love this word. Let's be curious, and let's be curious in how we ask better quality questions to ourselves. Because I believe the quality of our questions is a direct reflection of the quality of our life, right?
Yes.
And our decisions are giving us a reality. And our decisions are anchored in our beliefs. And our beliefs are thoughts that are repeated over and over again. So all that to say, be aware. Be aware first. Now, I'm going to tell you what's required that most people won't like to hear, or maybe you will, but most don't, at least me at first, is it takes courage to be aware. It takes courage to be like, okay, this is this, and I'm not going to justify or prove or explain or blame myself or anybody else for this right now. I'm just going to be courageous enough or brave enough to be curious and pause with that grace and space and explore and see what comes up. And then when you use high quality questioning, like, who am I not to do this? Or where is this coming from? This is what I like to tell people at first is like, when I'm experiencing some resistance or some stuckiness or imposter syndrome, which is usually directly related to anything that things aren't feeling right, even though there's no right or wrong. This is just growing through something, right? Mm-hmm. I slow down and just say, okay, this is probably a behavior pattern. So let's laugh about that, right? At least. And what are some questions I can ask myself? So I have there's 7 prompts. They're called Power of the Reset journal prompts. And I use them every month. It's November 1st. I just used them yesterday. My clients use them every month. And instead of like setting goals or New Year's resolutions, we just set monthly intentions based off of these prompts. And this helps us also stay in alignment to our possibility, our potentiality, and literally creating miracles. It's so cool because it's like when you're having fun and you take the death grip off the how, boom.
Yes. Everything
life happens.
happening.
People are like, you're so lucky. You've had every job that you've wanted and you've made this much money and you have the house and the kids and the dog and the cats and the bunnies and the boat and the saunas and the dream car. And I'm like, yes, because I created my luck through being intentional by having the courage to be aware and ask myself the tough questions. So I wasn't my own block.
Yes, that's so good. Because you're not born with the house and the boat and the dogs and the
Not me.
bunnies.
Not me.
You know, it's really sounds like, even to sum up what we've talked about so far, it sounds like there's such power in reframing everything. Like I've heard great question. I'm going to start using this. Who am I not to do this? Mm-hmm. Who am I not to start this podcast?
I was in your back pocket 4 years ago. This podcast would have been up and going.
This would have been up and running, right? Or also just sitting in that awareness and asking yourself those deeper questions is really powerful. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else that you would like to share about imposter syndrome or someone feeling like they keep comparing that you also feel is important to share today?
Yeah. Well, so I have the journal prompts, and if people are struggling, like if you're in a space and you're like, I think they're $33 or something. And the reason I charge is because I know if you don't pay for them, you're probably not going to use them because that's how I operate. Like something's free. I'm like, it sounds amazing. And then I never get to it.
Later. It's free.
But if I pay $20 or $30 for it, I'm going to jump into it right then and there. Right. And so I'm trying to keep it at a space, but if you're having problems, please DM me, message me. My contact information is going to be in the show notes. Yes. I will give them to you for free, but with a commitment to use them, right? I do even have a free guide on overcoming imposter syndrome, which my coach told me next year, charge, again, $20 for that because people aren't going to use it. And then they're not going to notice your magic and they're not going to have their breakthroughs. And I'm like, you're right. I have a podcast I'm at 95 episodes on my podcast. I'm so stoked right now. Amazing. I counted it yesterday because I knew we'd be talking about this. And I have scheduled future podcasts right now. So I think I'm at like 97, 98. I'm going to be at 101, which is just a fun number, by the end of November. And I'm just like, and I know this will be released early or later here this month, but I'm just stoked about this. So there's so much free value there that I don't even say the word imposter syndrome, but there's tools and resources within my podcast that will definitely help you with this beyond your wildest dreams. I promise you. And
what's the name of your podcast?
Oh yeah, it's Courageous and Free. Hello.
Ooh.
Having the courage is the only way you can be free, right? From imposter syndrome, from limiting beliefs, from doubt, from worry, from fear. So it's Courageous and Free with Jacquelyn Mack, and it's on all the podcast syndications. So it's on iTunes, Buzzsprout, Spotify, all of them. Great. And YouTube. Okay. So if you like videos, it's all on YouTube as well.
I'll put that in the show notes too.
Awesome.
As well.
And I mean, at the end of the day, I think awareness is going to be the key. And then go grab that free guide of the tips and then just be curious and playful with the prompts. Like I promise you with 1,000% certainty, things will shift radically or so subtle, but you'll look back 21 days from now, 3 months from now and be like, holy moly, I can't believe that just happened. There's going to be one or two things that you can't believe. And please share that. I actually raffle off, by the way. This is the other cool thing. I wholeheartedly believe, it's kind of on a tangent here, but bear with me.
That's okay.
That the most generous people have more to give, right? And these are the people that we don't even know in the world that are millionaires, bazillionaires who are just giving their money away because they can. And so I told myself, when I'm back to like 25K months, when I'm back to 50K months, I'm going to start giving away free coaching calls. And I call mine laser coaching calls because we laser in on one thing. We have a massive breakthrough literally in about 30 to 45 minutes. It's a really cool experience.
I love that.
And so I give away, even when last year when I just shut everything down, wasn't taking on clients, making zero from my coaching business, I was being the person of my future self. Like, why aren't I giving these 5 away now? Like, that's what I would be doing in my future self. So I did. And it's been amazing. So that's what I do. Whenever somebody tags me, shares a win, or even a struggle, hey, I used your journal prompts and it totally did the opposite, right? Which hasn't happened. And knock on wood, is not going to happen. But if someone's challenged by something that I shared and they share that with me, I put them in the raffle to win one of those 5 free calls.
So now all of our listeners are going to be challenging you for a free raffle. But it's like Dr. Joe Dispenza says, he says, walking as it.
Yes.
And so I think that's such another great insight that you shared is, what right now are you saying, I'll wait to do this when, and just start doing it now?
Yes.
Because we all, and it also helps to know that we all as humans feel these feelings from time to time. And it's just a part of that experience. And it's a part for us to grow and learn. And so it helps us all to know that we're not alone in these experiences. And this has been such a valuable episode. I mean, not only for me, but I'm sure for anyone else who's been able to experience. But I do have one more question, which is my most important question to ask. And it's, if you had an all expenses paid trip to anywhere in the universe, real or fake, real or make believe, where would you go and what would you do?
And to be honest, I'm so glad you did share this question with me before the call, because I probably would have answered a couple really amazing, because again, I live to travel and experience the richness of culture and diversity and the smells and like when I was in India, my whole body was rocked. Like my spirituality was rocked. My senses from what I saw, what I tasted, what I could touch was rocked. Like that country, wow, you want to tap back into feeling your senses, you can go there and it will do that. But when you gave me this question, I was like, I just stopped for a second. And like I teach people with decision mastery, in 30 to 60 seconds, what you want to answer. Just lean into your intuition, lean into your heart space and not your just logical mind. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to future Earth, where everyone is fully living their yes and life by design. And this is a world where people are unapologetically aligned to their highest potential. They're thriving without limits. Imagine a place with me, Shannon, that people are fulfilled. And this is like normal. And I'm not talking like we never feel sadness. We never feel grief. I'm just talking about we're just fulfilled. We're happy. Yeah. It's that little nudge or 10 nudges above contentment. And it's time freedom, money freedom. And it's just the way we're all simply living.
It's just the world. It's just the way it is.
Yes.
With in a beautiful way.
But no regrets. That's a bigger part of this. So no regrets. No longer giving your power away to circumstances, situations, people, money. How many times do we not make a decision that we really wanted to do because of a person or situation or money?
Yeah.
How many of us, right? Right?
Yeah.
So this is real freedom. So this is what I would do. I would jump in, fly a jet, because I would love to be able to fly something one day, right? And then visit this land. And this is a land that is, imagine if you took, this is fun. This just hit me. Imagine if you took Alaska and smashed it with Costa Rica and threw some mountains in there and then some white sand beaches.
Oh, that would be perfect. You're
Right?
getting every season if needed.
Yes.
And you're having, and then imagine that world where you're surrounded by everyone who is fulfilled and you're also fulfilled yourself. And I
Yes.
think it's possible.
I really believe that it is. And it's people who are just living from their vision. They're deciding from their
Yeah.
vision. So when people are being rocked by their imposter syndrome and they're aware of it, but they're still struggling, it's probably because you haven't really stepped into your courage to get clear on what your desires are. And that's another thing I do outside of my laser coaching calls is vision activations. And that's very powerful because now I've created that space for you and you do get curious and I ask you quality questions and you now know how to step into your power and what is a full body yes is a yes and what's not a full body yes is a no. And that's how future Earth will be and can be as
Future
people like
Earth.
us change this, baby.
I love it. My gosh, this has been such an amazing call. Thank you.
It's
Wow.
fun. Thank
Yeah,
you. Like
we have
I was like, what just happened?
like yeah, I'm like I just get to hang out with my friends all day on these podcast episodes. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining me and thank you for tuning in to listen to Jacquelyn on all of these amazing insights and us really striving to create this beautiful new earth where anything is possible. And I will link everything in the show notes so you can get a hold of Jacquelyn or get a hold of that guide that she was speaking about. And I'm going to get a hold of the guide as well. And thank you so much for joining us again. And we'll see you next time on The Awakened Mind.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.